In the backyard, your tree branch was Excalibur. The trash can lid, your shield. Back then, you had everything you needed to defeat those big, scary giants. So what changed? New giants overshadow us now. We're always anxious about everything. We can't let go of what that person did to us. We don't measure up to everyone around us. Will we turn and run, or will we stand and fight? Because freedom is on the other side of victory. It's time for Slaying Giants.
Well, hey everybody, good to have you in service with us today. We are done with Song of Solomon and we're stepping into slaying some giants. Come on, everybody. We're going to have some fun in this new series. In fact, it's week number 1, and I want to start it off like we always do. I want to look into this camera back here and say a big hello to our church online family and to all the men and women at 2 of our Texas Department of Corrections, both in Bonham and in Collin County. Life Fellowship, would you make them feel very, very welcome today? We're thrilled and honored to have you with us and along for the ride. And I just want to say this to those of you in the correctional facility. Once again, you are not a project to us. You are a part of this church family, and I want you to know it's our honor today to be able to speak into your life. Well, hey, everybody, before we jump into the message, let me just remind you that next month we are so excited because it's our annual Easter celebration services, and they're going to begin on Good Friday. We're going to have 2 services available for you, one at 5, one at 6:30, along with children's services 6 weeks to 5th grade. And then the very next day, everybody, we kick into 4 identical Easter services that are going to be fit for a risen Savior and King. I mean, it's going to be awesome. 1 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. And I'm just going to encourage you to either attend this 12 o'clock service or the Saturday night service instead of the 9 and the 10:30, because there's just not going to be space, all right? So I'm glad you are where you are, and they're going to be absolutely beautiful. We're already working behind the scenes in preparation for these messages, and actually there's going to be a huge petting zoo as always, and big Easter giveaways and for the kids and candy, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. And then we're believing God on those 4 Easter services that we're going to see 2,000 people in total attendance. Even more importantly, 200 people come on home to Jesus Christ. And then lastly, that's going to happen because each one of us step out of our box and we invite those that are in our world to an event like Easter. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. And so I just wanted you to know about that at the beginning of the month of March. Well, today I want to take you into this brand new series. And if you'd like to, you can follow along in your message notes that are available on your Life Fellowship app. And today, by the power of the Spirit of God, we are going to overcome the giant of rejection. And in fact, I want to take you to the theme verse that we have for this series. It comes out of 2 Timothy, and here's what Paul wrote. And he said that God has not given us a spirit of what? Fear. He's not given us fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. God's not giving you a spirit of fear, especially the fear of rejection. That doesn't come from God. Instead, He's giving you love, power, and of a sound mind. And today, by the power of the Spirit of God and through the authority of the Word of God, we're going to slay the giant of rejection. Now, I need to tell you right off the bat, I need to be honest with you and just acknowledge the fact that a lot of my life has been consumed with trying to please people. That's been a lot of my life. In fact, who here you like to be rejected? Did anybody wake up today thinking, my goodness, I'd like about 4 or 5 people to reject me today? Anybody? Anyone? Like none of us. None of us. And that's why we work overtime to do what other people want us to do because we don't want anybody mad at us. We want people to accept us. We want to be able to fit in. In fact, let me tell you a not so great ministry moment in my life. They say that confession is good for the soul, but real bad for the reputation. And so this happened well over 20 years ago, all right? I had just started off in youth ministry. It was my first full-time assignment. It was in Iowa. I had about 100 teenagers in our youth ministry. And I wanted our students to love Jesus so desperately. But I also wanted them to like me a lot. I really did. And so I had taken about 70 of those kids to what was called youth convention. Again, I'd only been on the job for about 3 weeks. And youth convention was this gathering of all these different youth ministries in one event center. So like thousands and thousands of teenagers. And there's like loud music and preaching and bands and worship and late night activities and inflatables and pizza. And it's exhilarating. And it's exhausting at the same time. It's all of it. And so it was at the end of night number 1. And I had a bunch of teenagers come up to me. They're like, Pastor Chris. They said, please, can we please go toilet paper the DYD's house? Now, the DYD stands for District Youth Director. So this is the guy that's in charge of the thousands and thousands of teenagers and hundreds of youth pastors. He's the grand poopa, everybody. Like the big cheese, And so being a really good youth pastor, I looked at those kids and I said, man, that's got to be the greatest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. It's awesome. So about 1 o'clock in the morning, we rolled up into a grocery store and we took every toilet paper roll that they possibly had. We counted them. We had over 500 toilet paper rolls. We rolled up to the DYD's house in absolute silence. These teenagers rolled out of these vans like a trained team of Navy SEALs. They got into their positions and we commenced what we called Project Angel Soft. I don't think there's ever been a moment more in the human history that more toilet paper rolls were launched at the same time than on that night. Streaks of white went flying through it was glorious. It was beautiful. And then it happened. There was one of the teenagers that was running across the yard, and he tripped and fell into the window of the DYD's house, shattering it. Alarm in the house goes off. Lights start popping on everything. Have you ever been in a room that's all these cockroaches, and you turn the lights on, and they take off? That's what it looked like in that front yard. It was utter pandemonium. It was insane. Kids are screaming, others are laughing, others are still throwing toilet paper rolls, and it was as if time slowed down. And there I was in the middle of that yard with a toilet paper roll in my hand, kids everywhere, and the front door opens up. And out walks the DYD, our eyes locked. I still have a little shiver that goes down the back of my spine when I think about this. In fact, what happened next, I can't even tell you in church because it wasn't very Christian. What happened there? Why did I do something so stupid as that? It's because I just wanted people to like me. It's what I have coined as, check this out, an approval addiction. And it almost seems like this has haunted me my whole life. It's just followed me wherever I've gone. In fact, early on in ministry, anytime I would preach, I would get off the platform and I'd ask everybody, how'd I do? How did I do? Tell me how I did. How did I do? And I found that I was living addicted to the approval of people. And the truth is that there are scores of folks that are here today in this service. But that's your life today. The Bible says this in Proverbs 29. It says that the fear of who? Fear of man will prove to be a what? It's a snare. It's a trap. It's a trap. But whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. The fear of people, the fear of what other people are going to think about you, the fear of rejection, the fear of man. It's a trap. It's a snare. But those that trust in the Lord are going to be kept safe. What I want to do today, right on the beginning of this message, I want to give you the two traps that the enemy uses to trap us in the fear of rejection. And at the end of the message, I'm going to show you how practically you can overcome this. But these are two ways that the enemy paralyzes people in this fear. And the first one is that we become overly starved. So the sad thing about this one is that we become overly starved for people's approval. And how the thing that you desire the greatest in your life is actually the very first thing that you actually lose. There's a guy that's in your Old Testament. He potentially could have been one of the greatest kings on the planet. His name was King Saul. But Saul had a weakness. And his weakness, I would argue with you, is that he had the fear of being rejected by man. So he was always wondering. I'm just wondering, what do people think about me? What do they think about what I'm doing? What do they like me? What do they think? What do they think? And it got to the place that he actually was caring more about what people thought, and he rejected the command of God to the point that the prophet Samuel had to show up and confront him. Well, this was King Saul's response to that, and it says this. King Saul said, man, I've sinned. You're right. I missed the mark. I messed up. I violated the Lord's commands. Well, why did you do that, Saul? Well, he gives us the answer. It's because I was afraid of the who? The people. And anytime that you're afraid of the people, we give in to them. And we've all done this, haven't we? We have all been in the place that we've done this. There's something that people are pressuring us to do. And maybe it's not even something that you believe. It goes against your beliefs and your core values, but you just want them happy. You want to fit in. You want to make sure that you are accepted by everyone. And so now you begin to do what you never were called by God to do. You begin to do what others are asking you to do. In fact, as an example, we did this growing up. So we actually had a rule with our kids when they were growing up. And in fact, I'm not trying to put this rule on anybody here. This is what we did with our kids, all right? I'm not saying that you have to do this with your kids. This is what we did with our kids. In fact, I'll say it like this. The teenagers are probably not like what I have to say next, but every parent here will love what I have to say next. And that's this. Growing up, I just recognized that any time that I did something wrong for the very first time, it was always at somebody else's house. So my first cigarette that I smoked was at somebody else's house. That first drink was at somebody else's house. That first magazine that I shouldn't have looked at or video I shouldn't have looked at was at somebody else's house. And then Tatum and I, dedicating well over a decade of our life to ministering to students, we began to hear this over and over, almost like a repeating record, that these precious teenagers that were sexually abused, oftentimes it happened at somebody else's house. And so we just put a rule in place with our kids that unless we know the family, you're not going over to their home. And unless we really, really know them, you're not spending the night at their house. And not just the parents. We got to know the teenagers, the siblings as well, if you know what I'm saying. Now watch this. That philosophy did not make us very popular with the parents. There were a lot of parents that actually looked at Tatum and I and thought, well, you guys are just a snooty couple. Like your kids are too good for our kids and they just can't hang out. And we'd let them know all the time, listen, it has nothing to do with you. It actually has everything to do with our convictions. And we bought into a principle that I'm encouraging you to buy into, and that's this. If you'll learn to say no, you'll exchange popularity for respect. And we gained respect from those families and those parents. We gained respect from our kids. I'm going to tell you today, my kids, they love God. They love you, the church. And that's not always common as pastors' kids. And number 3, they love their mom and I. The fear of man is a snare. It's a trap. But those that trust in the Lord will be kept safe. I mean, there are great people that just want to please God. They say, man, I'm going to keep myself sexually pure, but they end up giving their bodies away, going from bed to bed, to bed to bed, to bed to bed. Why? Because they're just wanting acceptance. I just want somebody to love me. And they buy into this myth that sex equals love. And any sex outside of marriage is the farthest thing from true, real, physical, spiritual intimacy. What are they wanting? They're just wanting one thing. I want to be loved. I want to be accepted. So if I drive this certain car, will you accept me? And if I say these certain things, will you accept me? And if I join this certain club, will you accept me? And if I wear these certain clothes, will you accept me? And if I eat at these certain restaurants, will you accept me? And now all of a sudden we are putting our values on the side, doing things that other people want us to do, hoping that we'll fit in, that other people will accept us. I mean, there's people here that I just got to live up to mom and dad's dream. I got to make dad happy. I got to make mama happy. I mean, I know people that their parents have been dead for 10 years, and they're still living lives trying to please their mom and dad. And they're not even here. I know wonderful young ladies that want a marriage that is going to be passionate and intimate and full of romance and a covenant, godly relationship, a marriage. And yet they end up marrying a guy that's not even a Christian, that is so self-centered in who he is. And the whole time they've been after one thing, and that's this: I just want to be loved. I just want to be accepted. And I'm telling you today that the fear of man is a trap. It's a snare. But those that trust in the Lord, they will be kept safe. Like, I know people that so want to be accepted, they'll find other people and they'll suck the life out of them. I call them human vacuum cleaners. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, just accept me. Just accept me. And it's just like, you've been around that kind of person before, haven't you? I mean, just sucking the life out of you. And I'm telling you that the fear of man, the fear of rejection, it's a trap. It's a snare. But those that trust in the Lord, they will be made safe. And so for all of my approval addicts that are here today or joining us online, I want to give you two thoughts here. And in fact, these two thoughts are going to be very challenging to you. And here's the first one, and that's this: approval addicts refuse to confront. Because I just want everybody happy with me. I just want you happy with me. And so I'm going to let you continue to get away with all these different things and do all those things because I just want to fit in. And we end up being nicer to people than Jesus was. Here's the second thing: approval addicts give in, but inside they're angry and resentful. So I'm just doing what everybody else wants me to do, but inside I am ticked off, and I'm getting madder by the minute. So watch this. Please never forget, never complain about what you allow in your life. Let me say it like this: people will always do what they can get away with. Never complain about what you're allowing. And a lot of us are allowing those different things because we are so dead set on making sure that everybody is happy all around. Here's the second trap of the enemy. And in fact, the second one is the complete antithesis of the first one. And that's this: where you become overly cautious. So I'm not going to let you hurt me like they hurt me. So I'm not going to trust. Instead, I'm going to keep everybody at an arm's length distance. And now this verse starts becoming your reality in Proverbs, and it says, blessed is the man who always fears who? That's who you're supposed to fear. But he who hardens, so it's starting to just lock on up, hardens his heart, falls into trouble. And some of you are in trouble today because you've started to harden your heart. And now this verse becomes your reality. And it says this, that an offended brother is now become more unyielding. So this is when the offenses come. You're no longer innocent. This is when you start building walls up in your heart and your life. And you make the statement, hurt me once, shame on you, but hurt me twice, shame on me. And I'm not going to let anybody do that to me again. So I'm going to start building walls. And I'm going to become unyielding. In fact, more unyielding than a fortified city. Now, these fortified cities of this day, they would build these walls all around the city. And there's a lot of us that are doing that here. You're building walls around your heart. The problem with that is that you're trying to keep the bad people out, but inadvertently you're keeping everybody else out. Because listen to this, walls are not discretionary. So maybe you have this sneaky suspicion that your parents favor one of your siblings more than you. So you start building up walls. Or maybe there was somebody that promised that they would be there for you and stand with you, and they broke their promise in your life, crushing your heart. And now you find yourself living overly cautious in all of your relationships. And everybody, I'm begging you today, don't get to the end of your life looking back and find that your heart was always walled up, living an overly cautious life. And then it's got to be so sad to God when there are great Christ followers like are represented here today, and you got people in your life that you love. Maybe people like your parents or family, siblings, neighbors, co-workers, friends. And we get to the place that we are ashamed to tell other people about our relationship with Jesus and how he's changed our life because we're so afraid that they're going to reject us. I mean, think how that has to make Jesus feel. And in fact, it's not just a problem of this generation. It was a problem in Jesus' time. In fact, there was a group of people that believed in him, but they were just ashamed to go public in their faith. And I want you to see this. It says, but because of the Pharisees, they would not confess their faith. Why? Because of fear. There will be people that are not going to invite somebody that you know you need to invite to Easter because of one word, fear. Fear that they're going to be rejected. Fear of man. They're going to be put out of the synagogues, for they love the praises from who? People. Rather than praises from God. I'm telling you today, look in my eyes, the fear of men is a snare. It's a trap. But those that trust in the Lord, they will be made safe. Which brings me to the question of the day, and it's this. How in the world do we overcome the giant of rejection? And the Bible actually gives us two answers to this. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. If you're not taking notes, I want you to write this down. Here's the first one. And that's this: say yes to pleasing God. In fact, there was a guy in the Old Testament. His name was Jehoshaphat. He was the king of Judah. And one day, the king of Israel had a meeting with the king of Judah, Jehoshaphat, and said, hey, come on, let's go to battle together and let's take back everything that belongs to us. And watch how Jehoshaphat, watch how he responded. And it says this, but Jehoshaphat also said to the king of Israel, he replied and said, first. So the first thing. So before we do anything else, we're going to pray first. We're going to seek the counsel of the Lord. And I'm going to tell you, I love this kind of leadership here. I love this kind of individual that would say, no, we're going to seek God first. We're not going to seek the advisors first. We're not going to poll all the people and find out what their opinions are. No, we're going to pray first. So when you have decisions that need to be made in your life, before you go seek out your friends' opinions and your parents' opinions and advisors' opinions and other people's opinions, the very first opinion you need to be seeking out first is God's opinion. Amen. Like we need to live lives in such a way that we please God first. In fact, there's a great story. Truly, he could be considered one of the greatest evangelists of modern history. His name was G. Campbell Morgan. Back in 1888, there were 3 guys that had the right to determine if somebody was approved to preach or not approved to preach. G. Campbell Morgan, along with a number of other young men, stood before these guys and he preached his message. And at the end of the day, these 3 men would post 2 different lists. The first list said accepted and had the names of people they said were called to preach, and then also rejected. G. Campbell Morgan preached his heart out, and at the end of the day went to look for his name on the accepted list, and he didn't see it anywhere. I mean, his heart was absolutely crushed. And some of you can identify with that. Like you've given your everything. You've poured your heart, your sweat, your blood, your tears into something. And people have looked back at you and said, yeah, it's not enough. You're rejected. You're a mistake. You're not welcome here. G. Campbell Morgan was absolutely devastated. And that night he went to the telegraph and he wrote one response to his dad, sent it over the telegraph, and this was the word that he responded to his dad with. It was the word rejected. But his dad was a praying man. And his dad 2 days later responded to his son and he sent a message back to him over the telegraph. And this was the message that he sent back to his son, and it was this: rejected by men, but accepted by God. Everybody, if you're going to be a Christ follower, you're going to be rejected. If you're going to be a Christian, you're going to be rejected. Look what the prophet Isaiah said about Jesus, our Lord. It says that Jesus, he was despised and rejected by mankind. Hey, everybody, why do we think that we can be accepted by God and also accepted by every other person that's out there? Jesus steps in the middle of this all, and he says this in Matthew. He says, but seek first. Say yes to God first and his righteousness. So as I say yes to God, then notice this, then all these other things will be given to you as well. Hey, everybody, the fear of man, the fear of rejection, it's a trap. It's a snare. But those that trust in the Lord will be made kept safe. Which brings me to the second step that I'm begging you today to buy into, and that's this: say no to pleasing people. Now, don't take this out of context and tell everybody, well, Pastor Chris said we can be rude to everybody. That's not what I'm saying. We need to be filled with love and grace in every relationship, but never are you commanded to be a people pleaser. Never once. In fact, look how Isaiah worded this. He said, who are you that you fear the opinions of just mere mortals? Human beings, which are but grass, they wither. I mean, mankind is just but a mist, a vapor. Why are you so scared of people? Why are you so fearful of people? And it goes on, and you actually then forget that the Lord your maker, who stretches out the heavens and who lays the foundations of the earth. Why do we fear people? And here's the crazy thing. I sometimes can get so caught up in this addiction approval, just wanting to make sure that people are happy and that things are set, that I actually forget God. Listen to me, everybody. At times, I forget God. Now, this might not be a big deal to you. It was massive for me. Because as many of you know, I was bullied throughout my elementary years and my junior high years. And so I lived in those days with this addiction approval in my life. Because I just wanted to fit in. I wanted people to accept me. So here I was in the senior year of my high school year, in the last semester. I was in my English class, and it was the previous year that I'd given my heart to Jesus Christ. And the teacher gave us an assignment, and it had a question on there. What are my future plans after high school? And then there was a bonus question underneath it. And here was the question. What's the most important thing that happened to you in high school? And I'm telling you, hands down, bar none, the most incredible thing that happened in my life in high school was the fact that I met Jesus Christ. I mean, he changed my life. He revolutionized my life. But if I told everybody in my class that, they'd made fun of me. So I had a choice to make. Would I tell everybody what they want to hear? Or would I give them the God-honest truth? Would I just be politically correct and take the easy way out? Or would I be bold in my faith, tell them about Jesus Christ and the change that he's made in my life, knowing full well that many of those people would reject me? What do you think I did? Do you think I took the political correct route? Or do you think I gave them truth? Well, for those of you that thought truth, thank you very much. But I took the political correct route. I wrote it down. And then the teacher said this. She said, I'd actually like you guys to all read what you wrote in front of the whole class. When it came my turn and I stood up to read what I had written down, I couldn't read it. Instead, I stood up and I said, the greatest, most important thing that happened in my life in my high school years was the fact that I met Jesus Christ and he changed my life and I am no longer the same. I once was lost, but now I am found. And I'm telling you, it was a defining moment in my life. And I took a step over the line and I said, I am not going to live my life trying to please people, but I want to live my life pleasing God. And I'm telling you that every single day, you're going to have the opportunity in school, in business, in the mall, in life, on the soccer field, to either be politically correct and walk with and take the easy way out, or stand bold in your faith, knowing full well that there may be people that reject you. Paul talks about this battle that he experienced with this same thing. Look what he said here in Galatians. He said, am I now trying to win the approval of men or God? And I need you to ask that question for yourself personally. Or am I trying to please men? If I was still trying to please men, I would not be a servant of Christ. I'm telling you that the fear of man, it's a snare. It's a trap. Those that trust in the Lord, they will be made safe. Which brings me to the goal of this message, the goal of today, and it's this. The goal is that we would live for the audience of one. Why in the world do we want to live for the audience of other people that could potentially, they may backbite and they may betray and they belittle and they don't believe the best. Why not live for the audience of the only one whose opinion actually really matters? And it's Jesus Christ. In fact, look what Jesus said in John. He said, by myself I can do, come on, look at this next word. Nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just, for I seek not to please myself, but who? Please. I'm after seeking to do one thing, and that is to please him who sent me. Because, hey, everybody, the fear of man, it's a trap, it's a snare, but those that trust in the Lord will be made safe. It's kind of like when we were back in first and second grade. And the teacher would kind of have some different errands and assignments for us to run, and they would always give us one of those little hall passes, and you got to get out of class and leave all the other losers behind. Come on. How many of y'all remember those glory days like that? There you go. Those of you whose hands are not lifted, I'm sorry. It was absolute glorious walking out of the class. I think in my life, I think that my teacher called on me more than anybody else in the class. I mean, the glory of that only was second in comparison to the glory of being a crossing guard. Come on. That's another story for another time, though. But I remember my teachers, they would give little assignments, and a lot of those was to take a little note down to the principal's office. So my teacher would say, hey, Chris, I got an assignment for you. Why don't you take this note down to the principal? And then they would always give me what was called the hall pass. And when I held on to that hall pass, oh, brother, I mean, I stood a little taller. I mean, I had some confidence. I mean, I walked out of that class with some strut. You know what I'm saying? Just like, what's up? I used to love walking down the hallways in first and second grade. There's not another student out there, just me. I'd make sure I walked by all my friends' classrooms where there was glass there, and I'd walk by and stop, and I'm like, Lindbergh's got a hall pass. Lindbergh's got a, like, what's up? What's up? I'd purposely wait for some teacher to stop me. Young man, why are you out in the hallway here? Well, funny you asked. A hall pass. I got me a hall pass. I got a hall pass. Hall pass. I got the right to be out. You can't tell me what to do because I got a hall pass. I'm on an assignment from the one that sent me. And I got a hall pass. And I'm telling you today, everybody, God has given me a hall pass in my life. And in that hall pass, He has told me who I am and what my assignment is. And I'm being honest with you today. It doesn't matter what your opinion is of me. It doesn't matter how you want to judge me. It doesn't even matter what you think about me, because in God's eyes, I am justified. I am accepted because of Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter what you think about me, because in His eyes, I am perfect. It doesn't matter what you think about me, because in His eyes, I am loved. In fact, when I believe what He says about me, it sets me free from having to dance for you. I don't have to dance for you anymore, because I'm on an assignment for the one who sent me. He's given me a hall pass. I got a hall pass from my God. And He said, I've got a plan for your life to bless you and to prosper you, to give you a future and to give you a hope. I am on an assignment from my God. And you need to know today that God has given you an assignment. He's given you a hall pass for your life. And when you finally begin to believe about what God says about you, it'll set you free from having to dance for everybody else. In fact, let me say it like this. The truest thing about you is not what others say about you, it's what God says about you. And so I close today with this quote, and it says this: secure in God's love, I will not surrender my self-worth to the opinions and judgments of others. When I'm rejected, I will not retaliate. And when I'm hurt, I will allow God's love to heal me. And know that the pain of rejection, and knowing the pain of rejection, I will seek to love those who suffer from its anguish. I want you to see this first line again. Secure. Secure in God's love. I will not surrender my self-worth to the opinions and judgments of others. And I'm telling you that social media and culture is constantly trying to undermine you. But I will live for the approval of the one. Because the fear of rejection is a snare, it's a trap. But those who trust in the Lord, you will be made safe. Amen, everybody? Amen. Come on, do me a favor. Why don't you bow your heads and close your eyes? The truest thing about you is what God says about you, not what others. Maybe you're here in service. Maybe you're joining us online. They're in the correctional facility. I'm going to ask you to ask the Lord a question right now, and that's this. Lord, what are you trying to speak to me through this message today? And let him speak. You see, it was my hope today that if I got bold enough with you to take off the mask and tell you some of my weaknesses, maybe you would have courage enough to do the same thing in your life, because you need to know this, that before I ever point a finger at you, I've pointed a whole bunch more back at me first. See, you were never meant to please people. You were meant to please God. And some of us, we've been caught up in the trap. And now you're compromising your values, your joy, your security, just to make other people happy in what you think that they want you to do. And the whole time you were created for one thing, to do what God has asked you to do in your life. And so right there, would you just surrender that fear to the Lord? Just say, God, with your help today, I'm going to slay this giant of rejection. And with heads bowed and eyes closed, maybe you're here today, maybe you're joining us online in the correctional facility and you're away from God. You feel it. Please look in my eyes. Stop running. Stop. Stop running from God. And just turn around. See, the myth is that you can actually get away from God, and you can't. He'll visit you. Some of you, he's visited you in your dreams, in events and situations. God will bring people into your life to speak into your life. Maybe it's a guy like me, a pastor, that's just looking at you saying, come on, isn't it time you stopped running and just finally surrender? And this is your moment. Don't miss it. That's the Spirit of God that's drawing your heart to him. And if that's you, I'm not going to embarrass you, won't have you stand to your feet or come to the front, but right where you're at, if that's you, would you slip your hand up into the air right where you're at, and let's let God do a change in your life. Come on, it's time to quit. Quit running. Just give it to him. And praise God. You can put your hands down. So let's pray this prayer. And it's actually not the words that are so important. It's actually that you're praying them from your heart with faith. So just say, Lord Jesus, here I am. I quit running, and I turn to you, the author of life. I confess you as my Lord and my Savior. God, I'm not seeking the opinions and the approval of man. I want your approval. So God, change me. Thank you for hearing my prayer today. I confess you as Lord. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. And all God's people, come on, said amen. Amen. Praise God. Well, in just a moment, our prayer teams are going to be here at the front. And for those of you that lifted your hands to pray that, and those of you that need an answer for, you need to come in and join up with somebody else and bring that need before God. We're going to be here today to pray with you. But before I dismiss you, before I even have you stand to your feet, I want to just say something to you. And that's this. I know that this past week was a very difficult week in the markets and financially in our culture here in America right now. You know, I was reminded back to a moment when I was a kid growing up. I'm actually old enough to remember there was a day in America, it was called Black Monday, the day that the stock market tanked back in 1987. I think it was like in October, I think it was. I remember the fear, the pandemonium. There were people that committed suicide. People were just struck with fear that everything is going to collapse and it's just going to be horrific. That happened on a Monday. On Wednesday night, we had services. And Dad used to do back in those days testimony nights after the message on Wednesdays. And what that simply meant is that everybody that wanted to talk about what God was doing in their life would be given the microphone and they could share with the people that were there about what God was doing. So the stock market had tanked on that Monday, and on that Wednesday was service. It was testimony night. And there was a board member of my dad's that was there in church, and I happened to be in that service. I remember as a kid, I remember the impact of this, still to this day, because he got up in front of everybody and he said, and they were in the middle of a building campaign, a little bit like what we are in. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, he said, I actually lost a lot of money this last week in the stock market. He said, I lost a lot of money. Then he said this, he said, but I've never lost a penny of what I've invested into heaven. I've never lost a penny of what I invested into eternity. And then he said this, he said, because giving into God's kingdom is life's surest investment. And he said, in fact, God has spoke to me to double down on my pledge, and we're going to move forward on this thing. And there was just this faith that erupted in that place, so much that it so impacted me still to this day. And I'm just going to tell you, everybody, markets go up and down. Gas prices up and down. They're down now. They'll be up some other day. But life's surest investment, safest investment is into God's kingdom. I've never lost a penny of what I've invested into heaven, into eternity. And that's why today it's such an honor to be able to lead you in a moment that we are investing into kingdom work, seeing lives change, because eternity is forever. So do me a favor, come on, why don't you stand to your feet all over the house? Let's take our tithes, our offering, our Legacy Vision Campaign pledges, ways to give around the screen. We have offering boxes as you go. Hey, tonight is Pursuit Night. It's going to be fantastic, so make sure that you come on back tonight. Lord, bless your people as they give today. In Jesus' name, amen. I love you, everybody. God bless you. We'll see you back here tonight. You're dismissed.